Let's move to order. Let's take a moment of silence, bro. Place as a business broadcaster, can't you left? Shannon, or is it Moran's?
Morts.
Sorry.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Shannon Morts. I do fill many roles in the community, but tonight I am speaking as a member of Caswell County Human Relations Commission. The commission recently requested that this board consider a proclamation acknowledging today, January 16th, as the National Day of Racial Healing. That request was removed from the agenda, as you know, and a revised draft of the proclamation was sent to the interim county manager, who submitted it to the county attorney for review. The proclamation does not appear on your agenda tonight, but that does not change the fact that today is in fact the National Day of Racial Healing. And so I may not be able to speak on behalf of the Caswell County Board of Commissioners, but I can most definitely speak on behalf of the Caswell County Human Relations Commission and many other members of our community when I proclaim that we believe that every person has the right to every opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive in nurturing environments that do not violate their safety, dignity, and humanity. And we all have a unique responsibility and opportunity to work collaboratively to create courageous and supportive environments that acknowledge the past, promote the healing of the wounds created by racial, ethnic bias, and build an equitable and just society where every person can thrive. And we continue to dedicate ourselves to the principles of truth, racial healing, and transformation in order to bring the necessary changes in thinking and behavior that will propel our great county forward as a unified force, where all biases become a thing of the past. And we believe that racial healing is vital and crucial to the education, social, mental, and overall well-being of all. We can't heal what we don't understand, and we can't understand what we don't talk about. I know there are some in the community who don't understand why this keeps coming up. It's a lot like how able-bodied people don't understand the importance of accessibility until they or somebody that they love is in a wheelchair. I also know that there are a lot of people who only speak of such things in whispers behind closed doors because they're afraid they'll upset the wrong group. That in and of itself is indicative of a problem. We, the Human Relations Commission, invite you, the Board of Commissioners, to explore perspectives other than your own. Learn about how policy and practice can create or perpetuate inequities, not just along racial lines, but along class, sex, gender, age, religion, ability, etc. We will be sure to invite you to participate in the trainings that we plan to host in 2024. And we invite you to let us know if there are particular topics or concepts related to improved human relations that you'd like to explore. We'd love to help this board develop a better understanding of how racism, classism, sexism, etc. is holding us all back and explore ways our community can move forward together. Thank you for your time. Here's a copy to make it easier on me.
Beatrice Thompson.
Benton. Thank you for your time. Benton Thompson, Benton K. Covington Thompson, Blanche, North Carolina. I was born in Caswell County, and except for 3 years receiving my nursing education, I have lived here for 79 plus years. I graduated from Barton Yancey High School in 1962 in a small class prior to the white schools consolidating and prior to our school's integration. Growing up on a farm, I was exposed to a number of Black people on the farm and in the community, and I honor these experiences. In my career, I have worked with and rendered services to many Blacks and learned so much, as well as Hispanics. Most of my nursing career has been in Caswell County. As I have remembered my local, state, and national history education, I have discovered that much of what I was taught or learned in our schools was inaccurate and incomplete. I was privileged over the last several years to have been involved in a racism study led by the Reverend Allison Lancaster, former pastor of Prospect United Methodist Church. These studies taught me so much factual information that I had never learned, and in our very challenging and troubling history of racial abuse and injustice endured by our Black brothers and sisters here in our state and in our country. It also instilled in me to try to do what I can to no longer be a part of that denial, and to strive to show the love of our Lord to all people I come in contact with. Denial of our prejudices, which we all have, including myself, does not help us grow, but instills untruths that cause harm. We all have prejudices, whether they are learned from our homes, our school, our work environment, etc. But by striving to expose them to the light to discover their truths of good or evil, we can grow wiser or stay entrenched in the past and refuse to embrace a better future. I'm one of 10 caring volunteer members of diversity of the Caswell Human Relations Commission. We will strive to help us who desire to grow in showing fairness to all residents as our U.S. Constitution so outlines, and our state and our county should want to achieve with cooperative individual and community involvement. The goal is for a better and more equitable future that current and potential residents and businesses will embrace as a place that they will want to remain in, to come to raise their families, to work, and to call home. Do not be afraid of us, but be grateful for this group. We covet your support. Thank you.
Kyle Warren Love.
Thank you for your time. My name is Kyle Warren Love, and I live in Prospect Hill. I am speaking today in honor of the National Day of Racial Healing. As someone who grew up on land once nurtured by people who were enslaved by my family, I know firsthand the fearful tactics used to influence white people not to stand up for racial justice. I am here today to ask you to be brave and take a stand to honor the work done in our past and improve relations for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC people, and the work still needed to continue those improvements. One small step is to pass the proclamation provided by the Human Relations Commission honoring the National Day of Racial Healing. Growing up in Caswell taught me many things: how to be kind and help out your neighbors, how to show and give love, and how to forgive and heal. An extremely important step in this is accepting that there is still healing to be done. I have been honored to serve on the Human Relations Commission and learn more about the history of this county, my home, which I love so dearly. This history has taught me that healing isn't easy, but we have to at least try. The people who raised me is why I'm here speaking today. They taught me to be brave and stand up for what's right. And I know what's right is accepting the reality of our past, seeing the inequality of the present, and embracing the need to continue the healing of the future. I ask you today to be leaders, to be brave, and pass the proclamation honoring the National Day of Racial Healing. Thank you.
Do we have any recognitions? Next will be the approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Okay, discussion items. Mr. Smith, the cruise Pelham Business Park Timber.
Yes, I'd like for the commissioners tonight to maybe consider having the approximate 60 acres of timber in the Pelham Industrial Park cruised for income of the site to use for future roads, signage, and possibly the level of additional pay for a shell building or a restaurant or whatever it might be. But they would let us see the property better, and we could possibly rub some of the stumps and so forth, and like I said, prepare it for a future development.
Ask a question, we're talking clear cut?
Yes, sir. I think it would have to be clear cut.
Have you got anybody in mind?
No, we've talked to a couple of people, but we don't have any contracts. We want to talk to the board first.
So you don't have any idea the amount of money that would be?
No, sir. I could cruise it and report back to the board my findings.
Basically, we're looking at, excuse me, looking at, seeing how much the value is and then putting that money back into.
I would like to roll it right back into the park and put a nice entrance there with signage and, like I said, maybe use some of that money to grub the site, prepare for additional payments.
Many acres is involved in it.
And it's 78 acres now, so I'd say probably 60 acres.
60
timber. Approximately.
Just for a thought, it always seemed to cost us about as much to remove all the stumps and rub it as it did to cut the timber. I mean, it's almost like an even swap,
Well,
because you gotta haul them off.
right. I would like to have it to where it looked good from the road, but future developers could bear that cost.
Which would be,
Included.
this is not gonna be the Piedmont College had to pay for.
Oh, no, so that'd be
Okay.
included in the cost of the land for future development.
Okay.
I'd like to see what it's worth. I mean, timber's like any other commodity is up and down. So, but somebody should be able to give us a ballpark of how much we're all looking at.
We'll proceed with it. The board agrees.
Any more discussion?
Thank you.
Good, okay. Rodney Gray on the Zytel update.
Rodney, are you in the line?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the board. I want to apologize first for not being able to make it down in person. I had all intents and purposes of being down there, but the 5+ inches of snow we got here in Virginia and the 12 degrees that it is outside right now are kind of preventing me from wanting to make that drive. I don't have an actual slideshow or presentation for you. I just wanted to give you guys an update of where we stand on the phase 1 project for Zytel. All the materials, the fiber and all the materials to do the build have been purchased, have been received and are on our laydown yard here in Virginia, just north of you guys. We have 2 contracts in place with outside subcontractors to put that fiber in the ground. We have our joint use agreement with Halifax Power EMC. And we've done all the pre-engineering, the staking, and the field engineering is complete to put all of the fiber on the poles and or in the ground. So all engineering is completed, and we submit our second quarter report to NCDIT tonight. I think it was submitted earlier today. That provides them with all that information. Construction is scheduled to start as soon as NCDIT gets their reimbursement process set. They kind of put in my opinion, they put the cart before the horse. We have submitted our invoices for the materials, but have yet to be reimbursed for the cost of materials going towards the grant because they don't exactly have the procedure in place yet. We were one of the first providers to actually, or I think we were the first provider to submit our invoices for materials for the counties in North Carolina that we received the great grant for, and they didn't quite know yet what to do with them. So I think there's been some legislative changes to how the process is and the information that they need from us. We have everything submitted. I think it's just waiting for NCDIT to make the final commitment, and we need to get some of those monies reimbursed because we've already paid all the vendors for the fiber for 4 different counties in North Carolina. You guys, Person, Halifax, and Warren County. How the materials have been purchased and received. Our CLEC has been approved, and we're waiting for the final paperwork to come from us. Our attorney has informed us that Raleigh has approved the CLEC application, and all that is done. That should be back with us. We've had a couple meetings with NCDOT regional members about our permitting process. We have that procedure completely in place, so we're ready to hit the ground running. We imagine that the 144 miles of fiber is going to take us about 8 months to get completely installed. We'll probably, once we start the installation, within 2 months, we'll be able to turn up the first customers. So we're hoping within the next month. We've got one subcontractor, the Mears Group, that's ready to go. They have equipment on the East Coast and ready to get start getting fiber into the ground. And just now, I just open any questions you guys have for me. I'll be glad to answer for you.
Mr. Gray, how many households are you looking at, Caswell?
So currently within what we call a 1,000-foot buffer from our mainline fiber that we're going to put on the route map, which I think is part of the presentation I shared with you guys last time, we're going to be able to service 3,812 households. And those are addressable. Those are addressable addresses by your GIS system. So that does not include empty lots that do not have addresses on the 911 system in your GIS system. So there's probably more parcels than that we'll be able to service. They just haven't been developed, and you guys haven't assigned an actual physical address to them yet. We do a 1,000-foot drop from the mainline fiber for free. Now, obviously, there are maybe some addresses in there that won't get that service because it could be that the 1,000-foot buffer, the computer system said we can service these, but they're within 1,000 foot, but on the other side of a river or a creek or a railroad track that we can't cross with those drop. But we've tried to comb through that engineering data with as many and pull out as many of those addresses as possible. So I'd say there's probably only 1 or 2 or 3 in there that are like that we weren't able to find.
What area of the county is this? What area of the county are we?
We're talking about a good part of old 86 up to new 86 ABC store, primarily Providence area.
Do you guys are you guys have the ability to see a screen up behind that I can share my screen and put a map up, and I can show you an exact map of what we have?
Think so?
All right.
Let's try it.
I think the moderator is going to have to give me permission to share my screen. There it is.
Would it normally send a question? There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So that shows our complete route map. We can actually provide, if you want, I can send down to Tony a CSV file that would have every individual of those 3,812 addresses listed in a CSV file, and he can probably give that to your GIS team, and they can, the GIS team can then plot those. And usually, I know some of the counties here in Virginia that we've been building, their GIS department will put a layer on the GIS system called incoming Zytel fiber, and people can search on that GIS system to see if they have, if they're one of the addresses that fit on this. We are working with our website designer right now to get that CSV file and this GIS map put into the background so citizens can search their address and see if they fall within that footprint.
That would be wonderful, because we get numerous calls from citizens wanting to know when they're going to be connected. And if I had that map, I could readily go to it and give them an answer.
Sure, I can email that down to you guys.
Right.
And you can also pass them along our information. Very easy, Zytel.com, give them our office number and tell them to give us a call, and we can answer any of their questions. We have pre-signups open right now. They can pre-sign up for service. We do not give perspective, and everybody gets upset with this, but basically we give them the grant completion date as the date they're going to get turned up. We predicate that with the concept of it could be, will be, and should be before then. But we've just ran into, we used to give, construction used to give estimates to customer service and say, oh, construction estimates your neighborhood will be completed in 2 months. 2 months in one day, we're getting very angry phone calls because weather, snow, rain, whatever permits being held up by NCDOT or VDOT would just cause us to not be able to meet that prospective possible commitment that we had said to the citizens. And so we just don't really give out that type of detailed construction estimates anymore directly to future customers. But we'll be glad to talk to them, tell them about the routes, tell them where we can put fiber, if we're going to be able to turn them up, what the timeframes are looking like, and just talk to them as openly as we can.
Do you have a contact name?
Sure, you can just give them our customer service phone number, which is area code 540-328-1970, and I do not have our 1-800 number on hand to give that to you, but I can include that in an email when I send these maps down to you.
Right.
Mr. Vice Chair, if none of the other commissioners object, County Fire Marshal has a question to Mr. Gray concerning service there to fire departments that Zytel may be offering.
Sure.
Rodney, we've talked a couple of meetings and you had discussed using 5 fire departments to put a transformer or whatever you called it into each of the fire departments. Number one, is that still in effect? And number two, have you talked to any of them yet?
We have not. It is still 100% a possibility. Let me see if I can find the other map. Can you see that one?
Yes, sir.
So those are the volunteer fire and rescue departments that we would consider or would like to contact about using. I can email that map down to anybody that wants to have it. We have not reached out to them yet. So just so everybody understands what we do, if everybody knows what a pop is a point of presence. And I know you've seen one. They're those little ugly beige buildings that are like 15 foot by 10 foot on the corner of some property, got a chain link fence around them, a gravel parking lot in them. And they're the boosting points for communications companies to boost their signal as they send it out around the community. And we don't really, what we've come to do here in Virginia is we've determined that volunteer fire and rescue squads are within the 20-kilometer radius around the communities where we're going to build. They have generators, they have full-time access to their building, and they don't like to spend money for something like an internet service. So we trade internet, phone, and TV services to the volunteer fire departments. We give them to them for free. If they let us use a closet hooked into their power and their generator, our equipment does not take much power up at all. The fire departments here in Virginia that we work with have said they have seen no increase in their power bill, and they save an average of $500, $600, $700 a month in getting free internet services and free equipment from us in exchange for running our fiber into the building, utilizing a small closet to put a rack of equipment in. And so, yeah, we would definitely still the plan, love to do it. We just have not. We need to get the reimbursement stuff with this NCDIT nailed down and get that moving forward before we start reaching out and making any headway within the local community.
Okay, I've already talked to the chiefs of those fire departments that you have marked, and as soon as you get to that point, we probably need to sit down with all of those and get this straight.
Yes, sir. Not a
Thank
problem.
you.
Anything else? All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Okay, next up will be Justin Delancey with Spectrum Update.
Good evening, everyone. So these are the presentations that I really enjoy giving. PowerPoint. We've already come through and built a good project, good sized project, and now we're on the verge of starting another one. So got really exciting news. We're really pleased, really thankful with the partnership, the county through our first RDOF build, which was with our federal funds. And now we're coming back through. Do you want me to just? Yeah. So short, quick history. Obviously, this is just my involvement with the county. You guys' journey with trying to get broadband for your community predates that quite significantly. I know that you've kind of left at the altar quite a few times, and we have tried to make amends for that. And where other providers have let you down, we tried to come through and really provide a top-notch service in a timely fashion. So you can kind of see we started with our RDOF. We were awarded at the end of 2020. That was a 6-year build for RDOF as a federal grant program. We prioritized Caswell County, got it around the line, and now that project's complete. We initially thought that it was going to be right around 4,000 addresses. When we got into the county, that 4,000 address mark was done off of a desktop design where we've got a guy in, I think, Colorado that's sitting at a desk and trying to look at Google Maps and figure out how many homes there are. When we actually got boots on the ground, it was a little less than that. Our as-built total came out to be right at 3,600. So that's 3,600 previously unserved addresses. And I think that's a key point as well. It's not as if we're overbuilding another provider to boost numbers. It's previously unserved addresses. We completed that substantially in October. So we're done with that. I haven't heard a whole lot of complaints. Typically they rise up to me. I think customers in the county are pretty happy. We've seen a pretty large adoption rate in the county. So I think that was a very successful project. Then we were very happy. Yep, that works. Thank you. Sorry, I know that's not the cleanest thing. So in blue is RDOF. Basically, if your house was in that area, it got covered. There are some very small caveats, but 99.99% of the homes within those areas got covered. In red are 606 address points that we won through the GREAT grant. So Zytel, who you just heard from, won your first round GREAT grant. The state had some extra money left over in the pot. So they gave providers sort of a second shot if they had wide-ranging applications. Those were the non-duplicate addresses from Zytel. So that's 606, again, previously unserved addresses that we will be connecting through the GREAT grant. We have already started construction on this. So individuals in the Cherry Grove area are getting lit up as we speak. And then you'll likely see us kind of work in a clockwise motion around the county. As with Zytel, we can meet more periodically with you and try and give you a ballpark of when people in each quadrant might get lit up. But I don't want to just stand up here today and give you a ballpark month because weather might happen, snow might happen. DOT, even though we work closely with DOT might knock some permits back, so we are on track to finish that well ahead of the 2-year timetable that we have to build it. I would kind of expect us to see, in the next 8 months to a year, all that be knocked out and us be done. I did kind of quickly want to walk through just what our kind of construction process looks like. And again, we're kind of in a weird spot because we've already had such a large project come through. You've probably seen our trucks throughout the county. We start out with a walkout to assess the houses, mostly the walkouts to figure out the condition of power poles, which is what we hang our fiber on. We'll go through the walkout, we'll figure out the heights of each poles, how each pole is looking. Then we'll go into the design phase. Keep going. Design's where we'll sit down and do try to figure out the lengths that we need to go, what permits, things, get the engineering ready for permits. We roll into permits. I like to think of permitting and make ready as kind of the same process. Most of it is done with the power pole owners. They permit us to be on their poles, so we enter into negotiations with them on, do we have to replace a pole? Do we need to anchor a pole? Things like that, get permitted for it. Same with DOT. And then make ready, same process. And then construction begins. And about a month after we come through and construct an area, month and a half, then we'll activate customers. I ran through all that really quickly because I anticipated some questions and I don't want to keep you guys up. So happy to answer any questions. Happy to go over anything in more detail if you have any detailed questions.
You said 3,600 customers on RDOF.
Yes, sir.
Now, could you back up to the map?
Yes, sir.
The one that's got the blue on it.
Yes, sir.
Right there. Customers that are not in the blue but are adjacent to it, they were allowed to tap in.
So how RDOF worked was, it was a reverse auction. The feds gave us census block groups that were completely unserved. So if a provider claimed to serve one address in a census block, it was taken off the table. We bid on every single unserved block that we could in the county. So what we did was we started out, we were going to fill every block. And then along the edges, typically they're bound by roads. If you're on the other side of a road from a block, we brought you in. If you were kind of down sort of an offshoot road where you had a few houses, we brought you in. So as much as we could kind of grab out as we were going through, we did.
So construction has finished for RDOF.
Yes, sir. We are complete.
What about, is everyone that was eligible and wanted to get hooked up using RDOF or that construction, have they all been hooked up? You still have customers waiting?
No, sir. I mean, the construction teams have rolled, the RDOF teams are gone.
But I'm talking about as far as hooking up individual homes.
Yes, sir.
Everything's done.
Yes, sir. When our construction teams roll through, they have it set up to where a technician can come back in and a technician can finish the install. So there may be an address, that is looking for an install. And we haven't gotten to an install, but I would think at this point, enough time has lapsed that if someone requested service, when we completed, that they would have been scheduled for an install by now. Typically, our installs run about 2 to 2.5 weeks at the most. Kind of lagging behind when you request an install to when there actually is an install. I'm not saying that there might not be a situation where someone has a long drop. So longer than 1,500 feet, if their driveway is longer than 1,500 feet, if they live on a private road and we have to get easements from other homeowners, that'll slow down the process. But 99.9%, if you're in a blue area, unless they're, weird, strange caveats, it's done.
Okay,
Do you have a particular, I sense that you have a particular area in mind.
I was hooked up today.
Okay,
And
well, that is
Are you
great
gonna-
timing. That, hey, and I'll tell you, I didn't even make a phone call when that happened, so
believe you, my wife made several.
that is perfect time.
But are you leaving after your presentation? You gonna hang
No,
out?
I'm hanging around.
I'll talk to you guys.
Okay.
Justin, I have a question. The 3,600 potential connections, what percent of those have actually asked for your service?
So I can't share that it's proprietary. What I can share is that typically what we see in our RDOF and rural completely new service builds, we see about a 40%, 45% acceptance rate. So that's sort of across the board what we plan to see. In some instances, it's more. I don't know that we really see less than that, but in some instances, it's quite a bit more. But safe bet's around 40, 45%. What else, guys? Happy to.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the CAB project and how this is going to be bidded and what the county's participation will be in that project?
Yes, sir. And as you know, and some of you guys might have heard along, the CAB process was funded by the state at the same time that the Great Grant was. And as you can see, we've got a Great Grant started building, and we're still talking about getting CAB money out the door. So the state's kind of drug its feet on CAB funding. There are still some uncertain things about CAB that we don't know, but the gist of it is a state finance grant in which the county chooses its partner. So the state basically provides the county with a list of qualified providers that have requested to be partners in a particular county. The state provides eligible address lists. And then once that happens and we're in short order of setting up, we'll probably need to set up a meeting to talk about it. Providers will get in the room with the county and say, this is the project that we can build. There is a RFP component, it's a bid component, that way that it's not a sole source thing. But essentially the county will drive the process. There is a 35% match on the county's part to any project. So that's a limiting thing. We tried to get some legislation changed around that to open that up. Because when you look at a 35% match, you're really limiting on how big of a build you can go. Now, fortunately, from where y'all are sitting at, between RDOF, what you've got with us, what Zytel intends to build, you've got Comcast through Yanceyville. You guys are well on your way, right? It's predominantly served. Now it's kind of the onesie twosie, the kind of really odd situations, instances where you might have a long drop, instances like the gentleman spoke about earlier, where you got your driveway goes across railroad track. Things that are typically difficult for providers to go and build to. CAB can bridge that gap.
What criteria do we use to determine the coverage areas for the CAB?
The state will provide CAB eligible address points. And essentially all that is the SCC has recently redone their broadband mapping. The SCC has tried to get to an address level broadband mapping system. I think it's a good start. I think there are some issues with it, but in general, it is a much better system than what they've had in the past. The state's taken the FCC data on coverage, compiled it with the results of its broadband survey that it took a couple of years putting out into the street, kind of meshed those together and figured out where there are holes in service. So at this point, it seems like it's a pretty good start. And then obviously many projects will just use that as a starting point and then branch out from there.
Will there still be the B
grant as well?
Yes, and so that's another thing. So we had 400 million in great grant. We've got 400 million in CAB. There is 100 million in what's called a stopgap program, which is essentially your onesies and twosies that providers can tap into. There's another 100 million in a pole replacement fund for providers to go. So you're already looking at $1 billion that the state's appropriated. On top of that, there's $1.5 billion in federal funding that will start to flow next year. And all of that is for broadband. So it's broadband construction, broadband adoption, any facet of broadband that money can be used for. So there's going to be a lot more money coming in from the feds to the states to dole out for broadband expansion. So I think if I'm doing my job right, certainly within the next 4, 5, 6 years, there really shouldn't be anybody in the county without broadband.
I think Canada's really been blessed to have the service we've got, and we're way ahead of most other counties.
So I'll honestly say you guys are, when I look at the counties that I cover, and I mean, we're in, once we complete our RDOF builds, we will be in 96 counties in the state. So then we're in 41 states across the country. When I look at your county and what we've built to so far for a rural county, you guys are well ahead of the curve. I mean, well ahead of the curve. So, all right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I'll be around for questions if you need.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Pamela Senegal, and I'm president of Piedmont Community College. I'd like to continue the good news trend, and I think I've sent our PowerPoint, and I'll do the same thing and give you a one-finger signal as we proceed. But while she's pulling it out, I'll share some good news. We had our first associate degree nursing cohort finish up from Caswell about 3 weeks ago. They've all tested for the statewide nurse exam, and we had 100% pass rate. So I just wanted to share. Good. I had just enough time to share my good news. All right. So a couple of things. I wanted to give you all some updates on our seed project, where we are with phase 1. And so wanted to just sort of context set and to remind you of all the components that go into this project. And hopefully what you'll see in here is that we phased the project into 3 different sections. You'll notice here that there are 3 phases indicated by color. The pink phase is that first phase, orange is the second, and then blue is the third phase. And the first phase, this is where we're laying down all the infrastructure for the entirety of the project, right? We're front loading this first phase with all of that infrastructure to make sure that as we go along to the subsequent phases, that we're not stymied by water, sewer, power, data, all those kinds of things, or worse yet, having to go back and redo some things. So we're doing all that up front. The second piece that's a huge part of phase 1 also includes the food hub. It also includes incubator farm spaces for students. And those are the big things. Those are the big components. If we go to the next slide, we actually finally have renderings, right? So what I want you to see here is that this is the food hub. And remember, our partner for the food hub is a company called 4P. They've already started working with local farmers. They're already working with the Piedmont Progressive Farmers Cooperative to help increase the yield rate that they're getting, the pay rate that they're getting for their goods and their services. They've also done some grants for PPFC members so that they can make investments and they can continue to grow and to produce more eggs. One of the best partnership examples that I can tell you about right now with 4P is they are supplying Elon University with all of their eggs. That's a result of this project. It's not even done, and we're already seeing economic benefits for our local farmers. So that's exciting for us. What you'll notice about the food hub is that there are bay doors, and then on the inside, we've got refrigerated storage units. farmers who are contracted with 4P will have a code. And so whenever they bring their harvest in, they'll be able to drive it in, punch their code in, and deliver their goods to their refrigerated area. And that can happen after hours. It can happen early in the morning, but it's for the convenience and safety. The other thing that will happen in this space is that we'll have office area, and we're dedicating one of those offices for our local food suppliers that are working with agencies like the Caswell Parish to make sure that food goods can get back out to them. One of the waste areas right now in our food system are that when contract farmers bring goods in, and if something doesn't meet the exacting qualifications, then it gets tossed. Now what we'll be able to do is simply move that over, and that will then be repurposed to community organizations that need it, and we'll have refrigerated space to actually store it and keep it safe until it can get into the hands of families that need it. So we're excited about this additional contribution that we'll be able to build into this process. There's also space there for forklift training, and then there's a staff amenity area, but that's a rendering of how that food hub space will look with 4P as our partner. And if you go to the next one, it'll show you another component of phase 1, which is the incubator farm plots. And so this is where we'll have the agricultural barn, support structures, a hoop house, cool bots, farm areas, outdoor meeting spaces. And then just to the right of this area, we'll have 1/2 acre to 1 acre plots for ag business students, so that not only are they going to learn about the technical parts of how to be successful in agriculture, but they're going to have a chance to actually grow goods on their incubator farm plots that are located there. So those are the major components of phase 1. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the things that are included in phase 2. And what we love about this one, of course, as the president of the college, one of my favorite buildings is the education building. We decided to put that into phase 2 because we wanted to focus on the economic impacts for our community first. And then we'll come behind that with additional education. This is also the place, if you'll remember, where we'll have a co-branded clinic, because that's one of the things that's missing in that area of Caswell County. And so there are several days a week that'll operate as a clinic. The days it's not operating as a clinic, it becomes a classroom learning space for a certified nursing assistant and for other healthcare providers. And so every space has more than one use. We're not spending a dollar one way. We're trying to figure out how to make that same dollar go a couple different ways. We're also looking for private funders for sculpture gardens. So let me know if you're interested in sponsoring a lovely piece of art out front for the Pacer statue, similar to what we have on our main campus in Person County. We'll also have cattle there, but they won't be there 24 hours a day. We're not hiring a shepherd or a herder. It's just people will be able to bring them in for classroom purposes so that students will be able to better understand, and then they will leave. They will not be there 24 hours, 365. There's also space there. You'll notice there's a wide porch in the front. There's also, the building is positioned so that they'll have the vistas of the mountains across the way. So it's just a gorgeous spot. And then that should say rural forums, but spell check doesn't know when you put the wrong word. It just knows when it's not spelled correctly. Okay, so that's one of the major components of phase 2. And then in the next slide, I'll show you a rendering of what phase 3 will look like. This is where we finally get to the livestock building, where we can have shows instead of our 4-H students always having to go somewhere else. We'll be able to actually have some of those shows here locally. We'll also be able to do CDL, truck driver training, in addition to having walking trails, orchards, those kinds of things. So far to date, we've raised $10.625 million for phase 1. We have been waiting, and you can go to the next slide. We've been waiting for another $2.25 million from Representative Manning's office out of the federal government. But if you've been paying attention to what's going on at the federal level, we're not quite clear as to when that money will be shaken loose. And so what we've decided is to go ahead and value engineer phase 1 to fit the cash that we have in hand so that we can go ahead and get it through design and we can start bidding on construction. Right? We've listed everything we took out of the project that would represent that 2.25 in case it comes through. Has been listed as an alternate. It'll still be bid out. And so should that money shake loose, we'll be able to easily add those things back in. But they're not things that take away from the core elements of phase 1. The other good news is I've hired a full-time foundation executive director, and one of our first priorities is to launch a capital campaign for phases 2 and 3. And so we will begin the effort of looking for corporate sponsors for phases 2 and 3 so that we can begin construction on those phases as well. Once we get to fourth quarter, that's when we'll actually start construction begin. We've already done some site clearing. We've already cleared out the retention ponds. We put some fencing out there, and we put some cover crops down for the incubator plots. And so we've already started that piece. We anticipate that from the moment that the construction awards are given out, then it's an 18-month construction period from there. So that's where we are. The other thing that we've been doing, in addition to the seed projects, is we've literally been planting seeds. So on the next slide, the other thing that we've been doing is encouraging young people to consider careers in agriculture. Everyone in Caswell County, we're all in for agriculture. And so what we realized that we needed to do was to start an elementary school with encouraging young people to consider. And so this is something that started out in one elementary school, and the results have been so positive that we were asked to expand this after-school program to now this number of elementary schools. In addition, we work with the Caswell homeschoolers. The big difference is that we found that students who participate in this after school, their reading scores are better and their math scores are better. And it's all using an agricultural setting. So sometimes they're having so much fun doing a strawberry DNA pull, they don't even realize that they just did math and they just read something. And so that's been really exciting for us to help them dream a little bit more about careers potentially in agriculture. And so if you go to the next slide, I thought I had some more pictures in here, but okay, never mind. All right, so I'm done now. What questions do you have for me?
There was a few slides back, you were talking about the clinic, and I couldn't understand what you said. I'm sorry.
So it's in phase 2. So as part of the education building, we're structuring a classroom. Think about a health classroom, but when you walk in, it'll have a reception area, it'll have examination rooms, and it'll also have a large classroom, right? So that's actually how we're setting up our health classrooms now. On the days we're not using it for nursing assistant training or preparing people to be home health aides, we'll partner with our local health department or with some other entity so that they can run a health clinic there. Think about like a CVS Minute Clinic, that kind of thing. So it's not for everything. And so if you need heart surgery, then this is not the place that you should go to. But if you need your diabetes, there'll be a licensed practical nurse there. They should be able to write you a prescription for those kinds of things, right? If you've got a cold, if you think you have strep, those are the kinds of things that you would typically go there for. Because there's a vast need for that in that community.
Let me ask you about the CDL license.
Yes.
Would that be an ongoing class or just how would that work?
Yeah, so right now in Person County, remember the college serves both Person and Caswell counties. In Person County, we partner with a third-party provider to offer CDL truck driver training. It's about a 10-week program. The reason we partnered with a third party to do it is because, quite frankly, I lack confidence that new drivers aren't going to strip the gears on an 18-wheeler, and then I'll have to be responsible for fixing all those 18-wheelers. So what we did is we partnered with a company to do that. And the idea is that we would expand that partnership to this location as well. So as part of the construction is going ahead and putting in that CDL pad, there's got to be a turnaround area, and it's right by the highway. And the demand for CDL drivers, apparently you all are ordering a lot of stuff on Amazon because the demand for CDL truck drivers keeps going up and up. So we anticipate that that's something we would offer year-round.
You stated in phase 1 includes all the utilities.
All the infrastructure, all the utilities.
Will that also include all the excavation for the project?
Whole project.
Yes.
Storm, everything.
Fantastic.
Storm and everything. And we want to thank our partners at Duke Energy because they're putting in millions into this project that we're not having to add to the overall cost because they see the investment in this. Other funders like the Danville Regional Foundation, the North Carolina Tobacco Trust, there's just been lots and lots of good partners for us on this project. But we would like to not fund phases 2 and 3 $50,000 at a time. It's been quite the road to get to 10.625, and we'd like to do it just a little differently for phases 2 and 3. Although we are not opposed to your $50,000 check, so please, you are welcome to write those. PCC Foundation. Thank you all for believing in this project. I know it's been a long road, but we continue to be excited about the opportunity that this is for this entire community and for the region. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Ms. Jennifer?
You need to get another budget. Okay, so you have in front of you Commissioner Budget Amendment number 8. I skipped over Budget Amendment number 7. So I'm not gonna bring that back to you again for a third time. So this is for the senior center. We have 2 items, and both items are for the senior center. Item number 1 is the Senior Service Housing Improvement Grant. This is a grant received from the Supportive Services for Housing and Home Modifications, and it was approved originally by the board on 11/21/22 for fiscal year 23. The term of the grant is 2 years, and funds are to provide help to seniors 60 years of age or older with home security and minor home repairs. We are rolling the funds from 23 fiscal year to 24 fiscal year, as several projects have been scheduled, completed, and ready for payment. These were revenues received up front, and because the funds were not spent in fiscal year 2023, they failed to fund balance. Therefore, they must be reappropriated as the source of funds. So we would be, the revenue source would be appropriated fund balance. It would increase by 75,000, which is the amount of the grant. And the expenditure line is the home and improvement grant, and that would increase by 75,000 as well. Do you want me to continue to item 2?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The second item is the Senior Service Center Without Walls grant. This is a reimbursement grant received from Piedmont Triad Regional Foundation to fund various projects held outside of the senior center. Programs include, but are not limited to, health education, exercise, mental health, nutritional programs, etc. Senior Services will hold these programs at facilities within the faith communities, the fire departments, the Ruatan building, and other accessible venues across the county. The term of this grant is 2 years. Reimbursement would occur monthly, and there is no county match. So we have a revenue line within the senior services budget of $70,000 increasing, and an expenditure line also for $70,000.
Yes, some discussion on this.
Yeah, for both of these, this is grant money on both of them, correct?
Yes, sir, with no county match on either one.
The item 2,
Mhm.
is that a new grant, whereas item 1 is a recurrent second year of a grant?
Yes.
Okay.
You need a motion. You need a motion.
Yeah, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make the motion.
So, let's look at this on item 1, the Senior Services Housing Improvement Grant. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, on the Senior Services Center Without Walls grant, I'm not being on the motion.
Motion, we motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Okay, the board and committee appointments. Can you introduce that company?
Yes, sir. The Agricultural Advisory Committee has 4 vacancies. And tonight we have an application from a William B. Vernon to serve on that board.
All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed?
Also, the Board of Adjustments has 2 alternates needed. And Mr. William B. Vernon has also applied for one of those seats.
Which seat? What was it? What board was this on?
That's the Board of Adjustment.
Pleasure of the board. Everyone in favor, say aye. Opposed?
And finally, the Tourism Development Authority, one of the current members, Amanda Hodges, has resigned. And we've received an application from Camara Barnett to fill that position.
Pleasure of the board. So we have Kamara Barnett.
She's replacing Amanda.
See the lady down
Yanceville manager.
here? Yeah, yes, for mine. I'll make a motion.
All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? On the reduced agricultural advisory membership. This was brought up last time.
Brought up last time, and it was recommended as an idea to reduce the membership from 9 to 7.
I'm not sure where I read it or who told me, but I was thinking each township had to have a representative.
That is the bylaws of that committee. It does state that the 9 districts in the county should be represented.
Does it?
How many members you got on the line? 7,
It's 5 currently.
5 members.
So we have four townships. It's the township of Freedom. Or. This township, the correct word.
9 townships.
Okay. So we have 4, it's not even, and we're talking about cutting 2. I don't think anybody wants to not be represented.
Mr. Smith, are you looking to modify the bylaws?
Yes, sir. That was what was suggested at the last meeting, so I wanted to bring it to the board for action.
Can I ask what district you're open?
You know that
I don't think they went by districts because there's 2, I think, in Providence and there's 2 in one of the other districts. So I don't think they're quite based on Providence, right?
So they didn't follow their guidelines.
They did not.
Okay. Well, if they didn't follow their guidelines, and we're having trouble getting more people, I would suggest that we cut it down to the 30.
we've advertised for, a long time. We,
Yeah,
Make a motion to cut it down to 7.
I'll second that.
Have a motion to cut it from 9 members on the committee to 7. Have a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay.
So, probably we have 5 counting Mr. Berlin, and he makes 6.
He would make 6, because right now we have Ken Watkins who's in Yanceyville, Lucas Bernard who's in Blanche, Brian Singleton in Yanceyville, B. Allen Smith is in Blanche, Matthew Solomon is Prospect Hill, and then Mr. Vernon is Filter.
So we have 1 opening now. After the night, we change it to 7.
Okay, anything else? County manager update?
Yes, sir, I've got several items. First, Lisa Roberts, who's the interim manager for family services, will serve on the Valia District 4 Board representing Castle County. Next, the courthouse painting project is on schedule and to be completed by January 26th. They're finishing up, and it may be a little ahead of that, but it looks excellent. They're doing a great job. Next, the IT cyber threat report, as a result of the December 24th breach, will be presented at the next meeting, February the 5th, to the board. Next, the Recreation Department received a grant from the Community Foundation of Dan River in the amount of $12,500 to be used for playground equipment. I want to notify the board, and I think we'll do a budget amendment at the next meeting for that amount. Next, Thompson Price will present the 2021 audit report to the board, also February the 5th. It's ready now, but he just could not schedule the last report tonight. And finally, we're waiting 2 more bids on the audio system improvements for the historical courthouse. We'll get those and we'll present those to the board. Okay.
Commissioner comments? I'd like to have, as everyone's aware that we've hired Scott Lorenzo. I will send it wrong. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I think it's tomorrow, Ms. Carl.
Yes, sir.
I know me and Ms. Gwen have said that we have 30 minutes times that you could sit and meet with him.
Mr. Rose also has.
You, okay. Want to make sure everybody knew about that. The other question was with Tony, what day's he starting?
February.
5th.
Okay, the question is, would the board approve for him to stay a few days to help him get lined up, or do we want him to go straight back to
Take it on the vote.
like
Do we want to thank you? We
let Tony stay a few days with him to get him oriented? What's going on?
I understand what you said.
If you need time to think about it, whatever, I mean, we got some days. I just wanted to bring it up because, you know, if we just drop it straight in, we want Tony to help him for a few days, whatever the board's pleasure will be. Anything else? January 27th, Commissioners Planning Work Session, 8 a.m. to 12.
And that will be at Co Square most likely because the library was already here.
February 5th, 2024, Board of Commissioners meeting at 6:30 p.m. at Gun Memorial Library. February 15th, 24 joint town meeting at 6 p.m. at the Ansville Town Hall. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to discuss? Sounds good. Yes, sir. Motion closed.
So moved.
I can't. Think of it. You make a motion.
I make the motion that we.
Sure. All in favor?